are going to get started. So my name's Lauren. I run our events here at PERC. For everyone who's joined our SOFA seminars before, thank you and welcome back. If you guys are new, this is an awesome opportunity to learn just about some of our industry's hottest topics. So today we have Matt Weirich with us. He is co-founder and CEO of Realync. If you guys don't know about Realync, they are this awesome video tour platform that really helps apartment communities share their space. Interviewing him is our EVP of Marketing, Mohammed, like always. So they're going to have an awesome conversation today all about video touring. During this session, we are going to have polls that you guys can interact with. So please do those as I pop them up on the screen, as well as please interact and ask questions in the chat feature or in the Q&A feature down below. So without further ado, Mohammed, if you want to go ahead and kick us off.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks everybody for coming out, joining Matt and I today on this Thursday. It is pouring down rain here, but I'm really happy to kind of jump on here and chat with everybody. It's been a while. Also appreciate all of you kind of bearing with me. As I mentioned in the follow-up email a couple of days ago, I'm in the middle of a move at the moment. So you are joining me in a completely empty, probably very echoey space. So thanks for bearing with me through that. And Matt, thank you for joining. We haven't chatted in a while. For all of you that do not know, both of our companies are in Indianapolis. So we do know each other. We do see each other regularly when it's not quarantine, through most of the tech events here in town and the multifamily events as well. And it's probably been over a year since I've actually seen your face, Matt, like face to face.
Exactly. That's crazy. And we were just talking about how it's literally a year anniversary of PERC going completely remote. And yeah, it's hard to believe.
It is exactly a year ago today. We all got together as a team and we decided we were going to leave the office for 2 weeks, wait for the curve to die down, and then we were going to come right back. And here we are 12 months later with the building for sale and just kind of moving all in virtually. One thing that I've been really excited about, though, is that came out of that is actually these conversations, right? And that really were born beginning of quarantine, trying to get answers around a lot of things. And one of the things that continually kept popping up was the idea of video, virtual touring, self-touring, et cetera. I know we had you on a panel like maybe last spring where you chatted a little bit about some of that. And we're going to kind of circle back around because a lot has happened with Realync over the past year, right? We were talking a minute ago, you were what, 10 employees about this time last year, and you're over 40 at this point. Tell me about that growth. What has been happening over the past year? Then I want to dive into what all your learns have been as you've worked with more and more properties and really helped them out with video.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, it has been a crazy 12 months. That's for sure. Feels like 12 years, but it's one of those things. I mean, Realync, we've been around for 7+ years, but the last 12 months, it's really been that catalyst of change and demand for virtual leasing, for video, for a lot of on-site teams and owners and managers to look critically about how they're leasing their communities and what they're empowering their on-site teams to do and enabling them to do and things like that. And video is one of the front and center conversations amidst all of that. And so, yeah, it's been some crazy growth. We from the pre-shutdown to the post-shutdown, the volume of live tours on our platform has increased like over 18,000%. Yeah, really have had to ramp the team to continue being able to deliver and provide the same level of support and experience to the industry and our clients. But super thankful to have been in the position that we were to help so many teams throughout the last 12 months. And we've heard some incredible stories and have physically seen some incredible videos and use cases of how teams have really adjusted quickly to the new circumstances. And I'm not going to use the term new normal at all through this. That is that is
Thank
done.
you.
That is past. That is over. But we're definitely ushered into a new phase of leasing communities. And I'm not going to be the one to pitch that it's 100% virtual and 100% digital. That's not the case, but it's quite the interesting model of what teams need to be equipped with now.
Yeah, yeah, and I think clearly you've had a lot of growth, but also even at a property level, the ups and downs, right? We had a very sudden kind of nationwide quarantine where we kind of decided, oh, there's no one there, and we kind of have gone back and forth, right? We're there, we're not there, we're open, it's feeling better. Oh no, it's not feeling good. We need to do more virtual. Maybe we should do some in person, self-guided. Like it has been up and down. And I feel like everyone's been rolling with the punches. What I've been really excited to see though is like people are finding solutions, right? And people are finding ways to really provide amazing service to those prospects that are looking for places to live. There is still a lot of moving happening, right? Lots of folks sitting still, staying put, but also there are folks that are still in the market right now. Everyone's been kind of keeping up with that kind of growth hitting you all. And this might come my last like specific Realync question before I want to dive into some of the stuff you guys have learned. I'm just curious, like, how did you guys keep up to be able to provide that to the rest of us in the industry?
Yeah. Thankfully, amidst all of that, thousands of percent growth and activity on our platform, the Realync servers never crashed and we stayed live. And that was really a testament to our team making sure the platform was robust and ready for whatever came its way. And so we had many years of testing and fine tuning leading up to that. But honestly, the biggest thing with virtual leasing and using video to connect with prospective residents to showcase the space is the fear factor of something going wrong, of it being a bad experience, of the connection cutting out. And so a big portion of what we provide to the industry is training and equipping the on-site teams to be comfortable and confident in those virtual experiences.
Yeah.
And our client success team pivoted immediately when first quarantine came in play. And we were doing on-site trainings for the teams that we were rolling out to. And all of a sudden that wasn't feasible. And so they stood up brand new training protocols overnight, and they were hand in hand with our industry, making sure that on-site teams were getting the training they needed and were fully equipped to introduce video, both live and pre-recorded, and that they felt supported and set up for success on it. And so that was, it continues to be a journey that we're fine tuning on how we virtually get people as equipped for success as when we were physically there, hand in hand, walking units, showing them how to do this. But yeah, that was quite the flip for us, and so proud of our client success team and what they've been able to deliver on that front to really be that extension of multifamily training teams and marketing teams, and really helping the on-site teams find that success when they needed it most.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We all certainly appreciate it because tools even like Zoom have certainly had some outage issues because of volume. So appreciate you staying up and running for us all. All right, so we're gonna pop up our poll question. Lauren, if you can do question number 2 actually to start with. We're just gonna get a little bit of a baseline on folks' comfort levels with video as we jump into what you learned and some tip stuff. And I kind of want to start while that's up there, Matt. You had about 2 different types of video touring, one being pre-recorded and one being the actual like live, almost FaceTimey type of tour. Can you talk about the differences between those two and kind of where they fit? Like, why would you use one over the other?
Yeah, great question. And it's pretty fluid based off of the individual prospect and what that prospect is looking for and their desires in the touring process. That's actually one of the things I'm most proud of our industry for coming out of all this. I feel like on-site teams now more than ever, which another term I'll try not to use repeatedly throughout this, but On-site teams they're listening. They're listening to the prospects and listening to what that prospect wants, desires, and is looking for out of their touring experience, which is a super exciting outcome that I love to see. And so on-site teams, leasing teams, they're proposing different options and putting different opportunities out there to connect. And there's an increasing percentage of consumers that they don't want to physically visit the property, or they can't physically visit the property, and so they still want that human connection. And the next best thing is that live tour experience. It's putting the
Right.
leasing agent front and center in that conversation. And so for the consumer that wants that truly personalized tour, they want that human connection to instill that trust and transparency. They want to see the exact unit they might be living in. That live tour is really the next most powerful experience to that prospect physically showing up on site. There are
Gotcha.
other prospects though that might be super busy and they can't coordinate that live tour until 10 days down the road. In those sort of scenarios, send them pre-recorded videos, send them videos of the community, of different floor plans that might fit their needs for them to preview, take a look at. And then even if they do physically show up on site or you do connect live with them, they'll have at least previewed the property and they'll come in at a different decision-making level than coming in cold and not having seen any of that.
Yeah, yeah. Lauren, can you pop those results up and kind of thank you very much. You're always so on top of it. All right, so we've got 50% of the folks saying somewhat, I could use a little bit more training. We have a whopping 41% that say, I am a pro, like you got this. So that's amazing. And then about 9% saying that not comfortable, don't really know where to begin. And I do want to drill down a little bit on that particular one, on the not knowing where to begin, because there is a lot of work that can go into actually standing up like a video type of offering. Between those two types, if you're choosing one to start with, where do you start?
Pre-recorded video, hands down. It's the most forgiving, it's the most comfortable. You can edit, you can fine tune, you can get feedback from your colleagues. And so starting with the pre-recorded video, the first thing we say is literally just get started. Just pull out your phone, start shooting, start recording, and start finding your style and what's comfortable to you, because that's going to be different from one person to the next of how they shoot a unit, and whether they want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, if they want to add a voiceover, if they just want music in the background. There's so much optionality with pre-recorded video. So that's definitely the place to get started, in my opinion, because you can still do so much with pre-recorded video. You can still personalize that video to a prospect. You can take a video, you can add a voiceover on it, and you can say, hey, John, it was great talking to you today. I know you're looking for a lot of natural light in your future home. Look at these beautiful floor to ceiling windows. And within seconds, you can personalize that video to a prospect. And it's just
Right.
as impactful. It still establishes that connection. It shows that you made an effort for that prospect. And so there's a lot that you can do with pre-recorded, and you don't have the fear of dropping off the Wi-Fi or connectivity issues or saying something wrong and messing up on live video. And so it is that great place to dip toes and take that first step.
Gotcha. You talk a lot. I was going through your website about, well, creating a sense of home and also humanizing video. I want to start on the home portion. So let's say we're doing pre-recorded video, right? We're going to shoot a couple of those few units that we can use over and over again. How do you create that sense of home when you're doing virtual tours? We had Jamin on last month, talked a lot about how he does self-guided tours and how he really like makes that unit feel homey so a person can really settle in. How do you recreate that in-person type of feel, that hominess, that this is home, in a pre-recorded video setting?
Yeah, that's such a great question, such a great point and topic to talk about. Honestly, the biggest thing in fostering that feeling and that sentiment is that authenticity factor. Pre-pandemic, the prevailing video options at communities were professionally staged, professionally shot
Right.
videos of a model. And that was typically
Very
a
shiny. Lots
perfect.
of smooth panning, right?
Exactly. And it was so artistic and so polished and professional that everyone viewed it as a marketing video.
Yeah.
And for someone to truly feel comfortable and confident in and picture themselves in a place, calling it home, it needs that authenticity factor. And so I'm honestly taking the production level down a notch and just being real and authentic and showing the exact unit that someone could be living in. And
Mm.
this is a subtle tweak, but if you are narrating or talking through the video, call out things like, hey, look how beautiful your kitchen is,
Oh,
and
okay.
have them help them picture themselves and position themselves in that unit. And so there are a lot of ways to pull people in, even with your messaging while shooting a pre-recorded video. And at the end of the day, the number one biggest thing is authenticity. Don't hide anything. Be truly authentic, transparent, and real with that footage, because the number one biggest thing you want to avoid is someone moving in based off of that video tour. And when they move in, it's not what they expected.
Right, right, right. It's that Instagram effect, right? Too many filters.
Yep, exactly.
We have a question from Stephanie in the chat around the video. So you're doing these pre-recorded, you've made them nice and homey, you're being natural, authentic with them. How often should you update those videos?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question, Stephanie. And ultimately, I would say if you're so say your goal is to have a video of every single unit in your building, really the only need to update those videos is if something in that unit changes. If you change out the countertops, switch out the carpet, repaint the walls, which hopefully ideally you're creating those videos when you're turning the units and they are clean and nice and prepped and vacant. There's not someone else's furniture in there and things like that. But ultimately, update the videos if something changes to make sure they are the authentic, accurate representation of that space. We also see teams when they shoot videos of the community, the amenities and things like that, they'll update certain clips in their
Mhm.
videos based on the time of year. And so showing
Oh,
a pan of the signage in the exterior of the building with beautiful sunshine and flowers, but it's February in Indiana, people know that wasn't shot in February in Indiana. And so just having that accurate
mhm.
representation of what it is right then and there. I'm actually doing a webinar with the Indiana Apartment Association about curb appeal coming
Mm.
up. And
Mhm.
feels weird for a virtual leasing solution to talk about curb appeal, but the position we're taking on that is your online curb appeal and having that match the physical experience. Because if someone's physically driving up to visit your property in person, you take a lot of time to make sure that what they're seeing and experiencing is a specific sentiment, feeling, emotion, look, and all of that. The same thing stands with your videos and your online
Right.
experience. Make sure that what they're seeing and what they're experiencing is what they would see and experience if they were physically coming to the property as well. So
Love that. I love that. And I'd love to, I know, so we usually, for those of you that may be new, we usually have a wrap up post that will come out probably Friday or Monday. And one of the things we will include in there is a lot of the resources that have been mentioned. I know we asked Matt to kind of send some of those over. One thing that would be great actually would be some examples of those videos. Like that, like good ones, right? Really showing some of that authenticity, showing how to do that curb appeal, how to kind of walk through a unit and kind of talk through it. That would be amazing. I'd love to include those in that wrap up post.
absolutely. We love showcasing and showing off what Realync users have done on the platform. So we can
Love
definitely.
it. I love it. I love it. So you talked a little bit about humanizing and making it personal, mentioning people by name, voiceovers, those sorts of things. Um, Outside of just the obvious, like, hey, Matt, it's nice to talk to you earlier. Here's what we were talking about. Let me show you the unit. What are some other ways to make that personal or personalized or humanized, right? Whether it is pre-recorded or a live video tour type of situation.
Yeah, great question. And obviously calling them out by name, that's an easy, quick win for personalizing it and showing that you are addressing that individual prospect. But really, at the end of the day, call out what is important to that prospect and important to that person, and show that you were and are listening. If they've already expressed to you that storage is really important, but on your tour, you don't even show them the closets,
Yeah.
really weren't listening. And so taking the time to show them the closets, but not just show it in the video, but call out, hey, John, I don't know why I keep using John as an example, but hey,
Standard.
John, I know you really need and care about storage in your unit. Well, look at this beautiful walk-in closet with these custom organizers on both sides, and really personalizing it based off of what you know their needs, their goals, and their desires are in that future
Yeah.
home, and calling out gaps and deficiencies as well. Like, be transparent and say, hey, I know you really wanted 1,800 square feet. This one comes in at 1,600 square feet, but I really think it can fit your needs. And just being authentic, and honestly, anything you would say and do in person,
Mm-hmm.
do it on video.
That's pretty straightforward. As far as placement of those pre-recordeds, right? A lot of people put them on the website themselves. Some have them gated behind forms. Some of them have where they can just kind of send them out via email. Uh, Another question we had was, is it important to include these video tours on your YouTube channel and not just your website, or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, rich media works anywhere. It gets clicks, it gets views, it gets conversion. So ultimately, wherever you're trying to drive traffic, drive a certain sentiment or visual aesthetic, wherever video could make sense for you, use it. And that's the great thing about the day and age we live in right now. But cloud-based video can be put anywhere essentially. And so if you have a lot of traffic on your YouTube channel, then yeah, it makes sense to have videos on YouTube.
Mm,
But if there's not a strategy driving the traffic to YouTube and they're just sitting there, then that's not going to be the most valuable use of that content.
right.
So ultimately, there needs to be a strategy around it. If you have marketing dollars and spend and all of that driving people to your website, get the videos on your website, have an engaging floor plan page, and have options to watch the videos, have smart call to action plugins and things like that, where it's positioning the content in front of the consumer to get them to
Right.
engage and get them to convert. And so, yeah, there's nothing wrong with YouTube, but if there's no strategy driving traffic to that platform to engage, but then not just engage, but also take an
Convert.
action and convert, then there can definitely be stronger options.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been seeing a lot of folks using, well, partially YouTube, also taking some of those videos and, popping them over to places like Instagram, seeing several communities starting to explore a little bit with TikTok as well. Different platform, definitely need to think about what you're doing and really understand the community before you jump in there. Because they are all very unique in how folks consume content there. But video, to your point, rich media plays anywhere.
Yeah, and the
Right.
caveat I would add to that is videos on your website, videos on social media and YouTube. Those are that's great marketing content, and
Yeah.
that's the generalized marketing content. When we're talking about the personalized videos that call people out by name and are personalized, showing them their exact unit they could live in, things like that, that's not going to be out in the public domain somewhere. That's going to be private on a cloud server that you only share that video directly to that prospect via email,
Yes.
text, whatever means. And so there's definitely a difference there, where rich media, 3D, 360 video, all of that for marketing on websites, social media, YouTube, you name it, tons of use cases there. For for the virtual leasing part and the lead to lease part of the funnel, that video content is typically not going to be hosted out in the public domain. So
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. You posted a blog post recently about kind of tour personalization, right? And you mentioned a little bit a while ago about the different options from an individual recorder perspective, right? So some people liking to be in front of the camera, some people like to be behind it. We've dove in a little bit to personalization from the perspective of the prospect. I'm kind of curious about personalization from the perspective of the shooter, right? You know, there are a lot of options that you mentioned, but like kind of keeping some at least best practices, because you're seeing a lot of people doing videos, right? And one of the things that popped up, and Stephanie just mentioned in the chat to us as well, was, in your opinion, is it better to have to be in the video, right, or behind the camera doing the pan of the apartment?
That's a tough one, because it really comes down to a lot of factors. The biggest one being comfort, being in front of the camera, but also your audience and what does your audience click with and engage with the most. In my opinion, both is actually best. Because if it's a video where it's only a leasing agent talking through the space the entire time, and there aren't any of those slow pans where the person consuming and watching that video can just quietly digest what they're looking at, then it can be a little too distracting. But if it's just a video of the slow pans without captions or a leasing agent voice calling out key features, key differentiators, key value proposition of your community, then that also could be leaving some stuff unanswered and leaving stuff on the table that goes unaddressed. And so honestly, a hybrid of the two would be my personal recommendation. And that's where having the right video platform where you can record individual clips of video and not just one long continuous shot of walking through the unit. Being able to take a shot of the entryway and then stop, and then when you walk through the door, there's leasing agent John, and he's excited to welcome you into the space and introduce what unit you're touring, what you're looking at, and then go on to a next clip of panning the living room, and then stop. And then there's John again, welcoming you into the kitchen, calling out the upgraded appliances and this and that. And so being able to break up those shots and have both in the video really makes for the biggest impact, in my opinion.
That's awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. You mentioned about kind of video touring platforms, right? And clearly this has been a big year, not only for growth for you, but just growth of these types of platforms in the industry as a whole, because there was and is a definite need, not only now, but probably even going forward, coming out of quarantine, because we've gotten accustomed to these things, right? There's a lot to look at when you're choosing any type of technology, right? When you're trying to choose a vendor to work with, a lot of factors. I know I buy a lot of marketing software myself. There are everyone. What should you be looking at when you're looking specifically at video and video solutions, right? To make sure that it is a best fit for you.
Yep. Great question. And we write a lot of blog posts on that, because honestly, the DIY option of pulling out your phone and shooting a video is the default. And people are pretty comfortable with that. You do it on vacation when you're capturing a waterfall in, I don't know what destination, but
I can't remember last vacation or last waterfall I saw, but yes, I do remember that from some point in time.
Exactly. I just don't think in vacation mode anymore, evidently. But people are so used to it. We're comfortable with it. Same with live. You're used to FaceTiming. And so there's that certain level of comfort of just using your iPhone and doing that. But there are definite limitations, especially when it comes to hosting, sharing, posting, editing, having fair housing compliance, WCAG, and all sorts of considerations for multifamily. And so the number one thing we always pitch is find something that is built for multifamily touring, because it will have all of those factors already pulled in together. It's going to be shared across the entire team, cloud-based. It's going to make it shareable, bettable, trackable, data analytics, fair housing compliant. It's going to allow you to personalize it for prospects, to check all these boxes that really are important when it comes to video of any sort for your community. And so that's the number one thing, is look at, is it built for multifamily? But even beyond that, is it built for you? What are your check boxes? What do you need it to do? If you don't need X, Y, and Z box, but you need these 5 boxes, create your list. What you know what your audience is looking for best. You know your community, you know your audience, and you know how you're going to try to reach out to them. And so find the platform that's going to work for that best. But we're definitely, I mean, Realync in particular, like I said, we've been in the industry 7+ years now, and we very much wear that consultant hat with the industry, and we really try to be a value add partner, challenging a lot of multifamily owners and managers and developers about how they're thinking about video, because it has so greatly transitioned. And so thinking forward looking versus in the rearview mirror of how video had been used for the last 5+ years to how video can and should be used moving forward throughout the entire resident lifecycle. It's no longer just a marketing tool, it's a leasing tool, it's an operational tool for move-in videos, welcome to the community, resident engagement, maintenance teams are hopping on and creating videos now as well. And so really looking at that entire resident lifecycle and how video fits into all of those different pieces is really a top mindset shift and priority for a lot of the industry right now.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I definitely want to double down the idea of kind of getting those requirements together. That is certainly something for myself and for my team as we're evaluating or finding a need for a technology solution. It can be really, really easy to see a shiny new thing, fall in love with it, try to make it fit into your process and adjust your process around it. And we've done that. Sometimes it's worked out. Most of the times it is not. I would say, to your point, when it has worked best has been when we sat down, we made a list of what we needed first, like what are the requirements? And those aren't always complicated. A lot of times, like those lists for me, sometimes going into evaluation, before I even start looking at features, is literally just a note in my phone, bullet points. I want it to be able to do this, 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 and this. These are the things that are important to me. And then go look at solutions, then go look at the features they have, start evaluating, chatting with folks, see if you actually like them and if they're good partners or not, which is also a huge, huge, huge part of choosing that technology solution.
Yeah.
So we back to the unit itself and kind of getting ready to shoot that video. And then I want to talk about that. I want to follow up on that with, you mentioned a lot about consulting. That's come up a couple of times. I want to talk about training, right? So it's one thing to just natural talent, let folks go with the camera, use the tool. I want to talk about training and getting people actually comfortable, especially those that may not be cool with being in front of the camera. And then we have a question from Amy that I want to go to after that around kind of placement of those pre-recorded videos as well. So starting back at the unit, we've talked about being human in the video, right? We've talked about some kind of debates on in front of the camera, behind the camera, voiceover, not, et cetera. We know we're trying to be human. We're trying to be authentic, shoot what's real in there. But at the same time, should we be staging that unit? And if so, what does that look like?
Yes and no. Obviously, there are costs associated with staging a unit, and in communities that might have 40+ different floor plans, you're not going to stage 40+ different units to record videos of all of those. And at the end of the day, I personally would say it's more important to have at least floor plan specific videos showing every single floor plan than it is having furniture in there and staged furniture and all of that. Obviously, for a certain number of the floor plans, it makes sense to do that. Your most popular ones, the ones you have the most of, things like that. But at the end of the day, people want to see their exact space and be able to picture themselves in that space. And even if it isn't staged, if you are narrating, you can talk through how big the space is, and there's plenty of size for a queen bed plus 2 side tables and this and that, and can talk through and orient people in the video even without the furniture in there. But yeah, it's one of those things that is definitely beneficial to stage, but not always realistic.
Mm,
And we've seen a lot of teams that will only put content on their site or put it out there and send to prospects if it is of the model perfectly staged and furnished and all of that. And so taking it that next level and just being able to show the unit itself now is becoming a more important factor. And
got it.
there was kind of another layer to your question there of making sure you show it well. And there are tons of tips and tricks to making sure you still show a vacant unit well. You've got windows behind you, make sure that the blinds are open, but when you're recording the space, keep the natural light behind you. If
Hmm.
you pan looking at the windows, that light is going to make everything else dark. And you want it to be as well lit as possible. And so keeping the natural light behind you will work well. If there are ceiling fans, turn them on. It adds dimension to the space. They can see that there's a ceiling fan running, and it helps add that dimension and better capture the space.
Gotcha.
Little things like keep the toilet seat down, like things that people would do if they're physically touring that unit. Do the same thing on video as well. And it's just the minor things that can really help it show well.
Got it. Got it. Let's keep on that thread and kind of talk about touring itself. I think that a lot of teams are pretty, we've all gotten very comfortable with being in front of a camera over the past year, right? That's how we work. That's how we communicate with our friends. That's how we communicate with our coworkers. That is how we communicate with our prospects, et cetera, now at this point. So I don't think we need to start with like the basic, like this is what you need to think about if you're just getting in front of the camera or you're about to talk for the first time on a video. I'd love to chat about maybe some more advanced tips or things that you've seen people doing that really kind of like surprised you that could be of value to folks that are trying to like push their video to the next level.
Absolutely. One of the subtle things that we've seen a lot of people innately start to do as they're progressing in their videos is the flow in the video. And like we mentioned, we definitely discourage one long continuous video clip of walking through the space. Walking while recording, even with an anti-shake gimbal, is going to be shaky. And so we always recommend stand and pan slowly. It'll help capture the space. That's like a 101 level. But the 300 level of that is making sure that all of your clips flow consecutively through the space. And it helps people understand, okay, this is right off the living room. Okay, this is right next to the main bedroom. And being able to showcase that cohesive flow
Mm.
versus showing the laundry room and then all of a sudden you're on the balcony and then you're back into one of the bedrooms and having it jump throughout the space, that cohesive flow through the unit, even with broken up individual clips, is that's a super valuable skill set, and something that a lot of people have really started to adopt. And then probably another like 300 level skill set is the the artistic touch. So obviously these videos, DIY, real, authentic, and all of that. But even with that, there are certain ways of recording that add just that little finesse and nice touch to it. And something as subtle as starting with your camera up high, and instead of just panning left to right with a slow downward
Oh,
motion. Or if you're going to record the kitchen, which it looks like you're kind of in the kitchen,
yeah, I am.
starting like below the countertop and then coming up over the counter and capturing the kitchen, like little flowy shots like that really add a beautiful artistic touch to it. And we've seen a lot of people start to flex their muscles on that a little bit.
I love that. I love that. That's really cool. All right, let's get Amy's question, and then I want to talk about the future going forward with video touring. So our questions was, is the placement on the website easy to do with pre-recorded videos, and would this be something best cleared with our marketing department before we add it to the website?
Yeah, so that'll definitely be one-off and based on your particular team's setup and structure. We work with a lot of marketing teams that empower their on-site teams to do all of that on their own, to manage the website, the social media, and make those changes. We also work with a lot of marketing teams that they want to control the websites and what goes on them, how it goes on them, the placement, the look, the playback features, and all of that. And so I would definitely check with your team on what their preference is on that. But the great thing about video today is it is very easy to embed on a website. Link videos, for instance, one of the share options is to create the embed code. Creates one line that you embed on the back end. You can personalize the size, the cover image, the playback options, and everything. And it's all with 3 clicks of a button. And so you can do the same thing depending on what type of website you have and how it's hosted. You can just put a link to a video. You can iframe them in. There are so many different options. And so, yeah, in terms of placement on the website, there are so many options as well. Having rich media front and center on the landing page is great. But again, it goes back to that curb appeal of what is the aesthetic that you're going for. And I would caution, if you are loading an actual video file on your landing page, that can really slow down the load speed of the website. And so a lot of people are now either doing a still image with a play button for people to click and then it loads the video, or they'll do a GIF to show the motion, and a GIF is a fraction of the file size, and so that loads much quicker, and again, links to the video. But we're seeing a lot of people really focus on the floor plan pages, and anywhere that there's a 2D floor plan of a unit, add a video to it. Add just a little play button or something to click that they can actually experience that floor plan versus just looking at a 2D model of it.
I love that idea a lot. And I was keeping an eye on the chat. We've got talked about 300 level video shooting. You've got like master's level. We've got someone in there using a drone. Nice. That's respect.
That is master's level. Yeah, that to be able to fly it and take a nice, clean, cohesive video is very impressive. That's a skill set I do not have.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about like 2021 and kind of beyond a little bit when it comes to virtual touring, and we'll kind of like wrap up here. Things are starting to open back up, right? It's looking very promising. We got multiple vaccines. Certain states are even are starting to roll back a little bit as well, right? We're going to get to a scenario where it is very feasible to do, if you wanted, in-person tours 100% of your tours. I personally don't think that as a society, we are going to be back to wanting to do that. I've realized very quickly how much time I lose driving places. And the fact that I can pop in via video now has been huge for me. So I don't want to go back to driving as much as possible. But looking forward in this year, what are ways that you think places can actually continue scaling virtual tours and actually do it in a way that remains relevant to where we are as a society?
Yep, absolutely. I think it would be a disservice to everyone if we just reverted back to the way things were pre-pandemic. And the expectation was, if you want to tour my property, you have to show up in person. And ultimately, there was a quote we got from a Realync user, and he perfectly summed up, in my opinion, where leasing is going. And he said, it's not up to me as a leasing agent to decide what someone does or doesn't want to see or can or cannot do. It's up to me to provide the opportunity. And that to me is what the mentality needs to be. Is yes, we can be 100% physical with our touring, but we can also be 100% digital, or any combination there between. And even if someone is physically coming to visit the property, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't send them videos in advance for them to preview, so that they get an understanding of what they're going to see, come in at that different decision-making level, and it can really actually enhance, streamline, and shorten the overall leasing cycle. And so there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained by keeping video integrated into the leasing process. And even if one person shows up on site, but there's a significant other or a couple roommates or people that couldn't join for that tour, go live, pull those people in via live video, even while you're physically in person with the other roommate or significant other, or create a pre-recorded video of that to send as a recap of what that person saw, so the others can be pulled in on that experience. And same thing with if someone looking outside the leasing process, if someone signs a lease and they're going to be moving in, instead of having a physical packet of move-in details and expectations, send them a video, introduce the team, show them where the loading dock is and what to expect on move-in day. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, video humanizes the connections. It allows empathy to come in to the message, and just really helps portray a lot of information very well. And that's something that can be beneficial no matter what part of that resident life cycle. And so I think teams just need to maintain that creativity, and think critically about their processes of, can this be more efficient, more effective, done better? And yeah, ultimately leasing teams know what they need to do. They know how to get things done. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of ways that video can continue to be a leader in that.
Awesome. I really love the idea of that video welcome packet a lot. That's super cool. Yeah. All right, thanks. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me today. That was awesome to get caught up.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you guys continuing to have this dialogue and conversation, and hopefully sometime soon here in Indy we'll be able to catch up in person again. I'm excited about your new space too. Good luck with the move.
Thank you. We'll grab a drink or something sometime. All right, Lauren, I'll head back to you.
Yep. So Matt, Mohammed, once again, thank you guys so much for having this panel, doing this discussion, opening the dialogue of virtual tours and how we're going to continue using them even beyond the pandemic. So thank you again. For all of you guys who are still on here, we will be sending out a full recording of this session either Friday or Monday. And that will include pieces of like, what's a good video look like, tips to shoot a good video, everything like that to help you guys kind of along this process. But before we go, I want to launch one more poll. We love doing these for you guys. We want to make sure they are beneficial. So this poll is all about future webinar topics. If you guys want to take maybe a minute, fill this out. What topics would you guys like to see in some of our future webinars? And we'd love to kind of help facilitate for you guys. But besides that, we do have a lunch and learn next month. It is all about digital disruption. We're doing a deep dive into digital with Bizzuto and Daniel Paulino. He is their VP of digital marketing. So that's going to be next month, April 15th at 12 p.m. So be on the lookout for a way to sign up in our follow-up information. So we'll give you guys a couple more seconds to fill this poll out. But again, love having you guys here, and thank you for joining always. So have a good one. Thank you.